The lights of the studio gleam off polished microphones as the tension crackles through invisible wires. Kara Swisher leans in, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Congresswoman," she interjects, before Jasmine Crockett even finishes her thought. "Do you actually understand how policy works beyond a talking point?" The question lands heavy, crafted for a soundbite, meant to sting. A pause. The air stills. The camera drifts toward Crockett's face, steady, unreadable, calm in a storm disguised as an interview. She blinks once, twice, but says nothing yet. Her silence hangs longer than the insult itself, like a mirror held up to arrogance. Across social media, the clip is already moving. Headlines flash in rapid fire. Crockett cornered on live podcast. Swisher exposes rising Democrats' weak spot. Commentators whisper online, ready for a fall. They've seen this scene before. A confident journalist dismantling a politician, the audience cheering from the sidelines. But this time, something feels different. Swisher's smirk widens as she fills the silence. "I'm just asking," she says, tone dripping with irony. "Because we've seen a lot of passion, not much precision." She leans back, certain she's regained control. Her confidence radiates, an industry veteran sure she's setting the narrative. The narrator enters. Low and deliberate. When confidence met contempt, no one expected silence to win. The camera lingers again on Crockett. No rush, no defensiveness. Just poise. Centuries of restraint, every inch of her posture an unspoken statement. The calm before a storm that doesn't roar, it calculates. The audience feels it. Something's about to shift. Swisher taps her pen against the desk, impatient. Crockett finally exhales. Her voice emerges soft, precise, and unhurried. "Kara," she begins, "sometimes understanding means listening before assuming." The room stills. No one breathes. The narrator closes the moment in a whisper, and within seconds the internet would witness a reversal no journalist saw coming. Rewind. The screen flickers back to an earlier moment that morning. The sleek, soundproof studio of the Decode Hour, a nationally streamed podcast where politics collides with tech and reputations are made. Or broken. The show's tagline flashes across the screen, "Where power gets questioned." Millions are tuned in live. Kara Swisher, the veteran journalist known for dismantling CEOs and sparring with senators, adjusts her headphones. Her tone is practiced, her authority undeniable. Across from her sits Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, calm, composed, wearing that same expression that unsettles both critics and fans. She's not Silicon Valley royalty or a DC insider. She's the daughter of working-class grit and grassroots truth. To some, she's a disruptor. To others, a threat. Swisher knows the script. Challenge the guest, dominate the exchange, walk away with a viral clip. But Crockett? She didn't come to play the role. As the mics go live, Swisher leans in with a smile that isn't quite friendly. "You've made a name for yourself calling out hypocrisy," she begins. "But in a city that runs on deals, how do you function without making them?" The words are sharp, the delivery surgical. She's setting the tone, one of intellectual dominance. The camera splits into a montage. Social media feeds lighting up in real time. Oh, this is gonna get spicy. Swisher's not holding back today. Crockett better come ready. Kara doesn't miss. The stakes climb with every refresh. The narrator cuts in, voice deep with intrigue. In a world where sound bites build careers, and narratives can erase them, two women stood at the crossroads of power and perception. One guarded the gate, the other came to walk through it. Swisher's reputation precedes her, the interrogator of giants, the woman who's made tech moguls stammer and presidents pivot. She's fluent in dominance, trained to turn discomfort into content. But Crockett represents something rarer, authenticity wrapped in intellect, conviction without apology. To her followers, she isn't just a congresswoman. She's the voice that speaks what others whisper. The dialogue continues, each question a test, each answer a counterpunch disguised in calm. "Congresswoman," Swisher presses, "you talk a lot about representing the unheard, but do you actually understand how to get things done in the real world?" Crockett tilts her head. The camera zooms just slightly, catching the faintest smile at the edge of her lips. "The real world," she replies softly, "isn't only made of the people who already have a microphone. It's not a retort. It's a revelation." A sudden hush falls over the audience chat. Comment sections freeze mid-sentence. The tone has shifted. The interview no longer feels like a sparring match. It feels like a reckoning. Swisher adjusts her posture, a flicker of irritation crossing her face. She's used to controlling the current, not swimming against it. Crockett, meanwhile, is still, centered, grounded. Her presence commands in silence what others fight to claim in words. The narrator returns, deliberate and knowing. This wasn't just another interview. It was a collision of two Americas, one that speaks from the mountaintop and one that climbs it. On screens across the nation, the hashtag #Crockett v. Swisher starts trending. Clips loop, analysts tweet, podcasts dissect what's happening live. But what happened next? The narrator intones, voice rising over swelling music. Didn't just trend, it tested who controls the American conversation. Fade out, leaving the air charged, the audience holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable turn. Before that moment, before the sharp exchange and the poised silence that would soon echo across the internet, there was Kara Swisher. The woman behind the mic, the journalist who made tech titans sweat and politicians stumble. A figure equal parts respected and feared. Her story began in the chaotic dawn of Silicon Valley's rise, when billionaires were being minted overnight and every new app was a revolution waiting to happen. Kara wasn't there to flatter. She was there to question. In a world drunk on innovation and power, she carved her own authority with a weapon far sharper than code. Her words. Archival footage flashes. A young Swisher standing in a crowded press pit. Microphone in hand, her voice cutting through the noise. Why should anyone trust you with their data? A CEO fumbles. Cameras click. The internet roars. She wasn't polished. She was raw. She didn't perform. She confronted. Her bluntness was her armor, and her brand. Over time, the sharp-tongued critic of billionaires became a billionaire of influence herself. Her interviews became events. Her bylines became gospel. The audience didn't just watch her for answers. They tuned in for spectacle. The narrator's tone deepens. She built her empire by holding others accountable. But every empire, in time, risks becoming what it once challenged. Montage, clips of Swisher's most infamous moments. Elon Musk visibly flustered as she interrupts. That's not an answer, Elon. Mark Zuckerberg blinking rapidly under her stare. A U.S. senator caught mid-spin, struggling to dodge her barrage of why. Each clip ends with that knowing smirk. The same expression that said, I see through you. Audiences loved it. Kara became more than a journalist. She was a cultural character. The fearless woman who never blinked first, but success has a strange gravity. The more the world praised her fearlessness, the more she leaned into it. What began as conviction slowly hardened into certainty. The mission to expose arrogance began to blur with the thrill of displaying her own dominance. The narrator continues, almost like a confession. She called out the powerful until she stood among them. She hunted bias until confidence turned into her own. Now, Swisher wasn't just asking questions. She was defining the answers. The world labeled her the truth teller, the voice of reason, the conscience of tech. But labels can be cages too. To keep her crown, she had to keep performing, sharper, louder. Faster footage plays of Swisher on late-night shows, her laughter clipped and confident. I just don't buy the nonsense, she tells one host. If they can't handle hard questions, they shouldn't be in the room. The crowd cheers. Applause feeds ego, and ego becomes armor, somewhere in that ascent. Her interviews became less about discovering truth, and more about proving she still owned it. When she sat across from Jasmine Crockett, that history hung in the air. Kara wasn't just defending her journalistic credibility, she was protecting her throne, the authority she'd built over decades of sharp exchanges, the persona that millions adored. But Crockett didn't fit the usual pattern. She wasn't a CEO trying to dodge accountability or a politician fumbling through spin. She was composed, too composed. Her calm wasn't submission. It was power, and for someone who thrived on visible discomfort, that was disarming. The narrator's tone tightens. In every past clash, Kara's rhythm was the same. Push, interrupt, dominate. But this time, her sharpest weapon would turn dull in the face of something stronger. Stillness. The montage slows, her confrontations play in reverse. Headlines rewinding like echoes. Swisher grills another tech titan. No one escapes Kara's crossfire. Then, silence. The camera lands on her face in the present interview. Confident, certain, a hint of smirk returning as she leans toward Crockett. She's done this 1,000 times. She knows the cues. She expects resistance, stumbles, maybe even tears. She expects control, but not composure. Because for all her years in journalism, all the moments where she cracked open the armor of the powerful, she had never faced someone who refused to play the same game. Someone who could meet confrontation with poise instead of panic. She built her name on power-checking others, the narrator intones, voice heavy with irony, but in doing so, she became part of the spectacle she once exposed. Clips flicker once more. Swisher interrupting, pressing, smiling that trademark smile. But overlaid now with the haunting echo of Crockett's soft, steady voice. The real world isn't only made of the people who already have a microphone. It lingers, like a mirror held up to years of bravado. The narrator lowers to a near whisper, and for the first time, the microphone, her greatest weapon, wasn't hers alone. Fade to black. Then, a single line appears on screen in white text over silence. But this time, her sharpest weapon, arrogance, met its match. Before the bright studio lights, before her calm dismantled a condescending question, Jasmine Crockett's world was built from harder light. Texas sunlight, courtroom fluorescence, and the glow of late nights spent defending people no one else would stand beside. Her story doesn't begin in power, but in persistence. Dallas. Humid air. A young attorney with a worn briefcase and relentless fire, stepping into courtrooms where every glance told her she didn't belong. The judge's raised eyebrow, the smirk from an opposing counsel, the quiet assumption that her accent, her hair, her skin all disqualified her from authority. But Crockett didn't walk in seeking approval. She came armed with preparation. The narrator's voice, firm but reverent. She didn't come to impress, she came to represent. Flashback, a courtroom scene. A young man, nervous, wrongfully accused of theft, eyes down. The prosecutor's tone sharp, almost rehearsed. Crockett rises slowly, papers in hand. Her voice cuts through the murmurs, respectful, deliberate, commanding. Your Honor, what we have here isn't just a question of guilt, it's a question of fairness. The room quiets. For a moment, everyone listens. Because truth, when spoken without fear, demands silence. Crockett wasn't a lawyer who shouted. She reasoned. She challenged with evidence, not ego. She had learned early that loudness is cheap, clarity is expensive. And every case she took on, every injustice she confronted, carved that lesson deeper into her being. The montage widens, community centers, small offices stacked with files, a young Jasmine flipping through depositions while her phone buzzes nonstop. Her reputation grows not through connections, but through consistency. She wins cases others walk away from. She restores dignity where others saw none. Then, a shift, a protest, a microphone. A young woman steps forward, same Jasmine, now facing cameras, her voice carrying the exhaustion of someone who has seen too much inequality to stay quiet. I became a lawyer to fight for people's rights. But what happens when the law itself stops listening? The crowd erupts, not with celebrity adoration, but with recognition, because she spoke their language, the language of lived struggle. The narrator continues, while others built brands, she built bridges, from the courtroom to the community, from being their lawyer to becoming their voice. Her journey into Congress wasn't scripted by consultants or crafted by donors. It was born out of frustration, the kind that turns into action. The same calm that once steadied her in front of a jury now steadied her in front of America, flashed to her first day in Congress. The marble floors gleam, cameras line the hallway. Someone mutters under their breath, "She's too outspoken." Another whispers, "Give her 6 months." Jasmine smiles, adjusts her blazer, and walks in like she's done this before. Because in truth she had, not in Congress, but in every courtroom, every protest, every fight where composure was her armor. Her tone on the House floor mirrored her courtroom precision, measured, grounded. When others shouted to trend, she spoke to transform. Narrator. Her strength wasn't in noise, but nuance. Where others saw headlines, she saw people. Where others argued for victory, she argued for value. Clips of her congressional speeches flash across the screen, standing firm against policy hypocrisy, defending voting rights, calling out double standards. Each word sharp, but never cruel. Each pause intentional, the kind that forces even opponents to listen. One journalist once described her as too calm for cable news. That was meant as criticism. She took it as confirmation. Because calm isn't absence of power, it's control of it. Cut to a late-night clip. Jasmine alone in her office, stacks of papers around her. The Capitol dome glows faintly outside the window. She looks up from her notes, exhausted but unwavering. If they think decency is weakness, she murmurs, then they've never met someone who had to fight for it. The narrator deepens. Her story wasn't built for the viral age. It was built for history books that haven't been written yet. The kind where grace is mistaken for fragility until it wins. From public defender to Congresswoman, Jasmine's rise wasn't a climb, it was a march. Every step a testament that intelligence can be quiet, that leadership doesn't need volume to command attention. She carried not just her name, but the names of every woman told to smile softer, speak slower, or sit down sooner. And when the moment came, when the lights turned hot and Kara Swisher's eyes narrowed with practiced confidence, Jasmine's expression didn't change. The same steady calm that once disarmed judges now faced down a media veteran known for breaking others down. The narrator, with a low hum of suspense. What happens when someone raised in the fire of prejudice meets someone polished in the comfort of platform? Clips flash, Swisher's eyebrow arching, Crockett's stillness, the air thick with expectation. She had faced louder rooms, harsher tones, deeper dismissals. This was just another stage. Different lights, same test. Her poise, honed through years of defending the voiceless, wasn't a performance. It was reflex. And when that nuance met a microphone built for mockery, the narrator concludes, voice swelling as music rises. History hit record. A slow zoom on her calm, unflinching face, the moment before response. Fade to black. Back in the studio, the cameras roll, the lights glare, and the air feels heavier than the sum of every microphone in the room. Kara Swisher leans forward. Again, mid-sentence, voice sharp as a scalpel. Let me stop you there, Congresswoman. The words are designed to cut, to interrupt, to reassert control. Viewers at home sense the shift instantly. The rhythm of the conversation, once fluid, once seemingly mutual, now snaps like a taut wire. Every pause, every glance, is magnified for millions of eyes tracking online. Social media notifications spike. This is escalating fast. Crockett about to face the fire. Swisher doesn't miss a beat. Swisher's tone rises, but not just in volume, in implication. Each question carries an unspoken challenge. Prove yourself or falter. She leans closer, pen tapping on the desk, a metronome of implied dominance. She expects a reaction. Defensiveness, stumble, hesitation. Crockett doesn't deliver it. She sits straight, her hands folded lightly on the desk, eyes steady. A faint, almost imperceptible smile curves at the edge of her lips. Not arrogance, not mockery. A calm assurance that radiates more authority than words ever could. The audience notices. Even viewers conditioned to expect conflict feel something different. Patience can be power. The narrator cuts in, voice low, deliberate. This wasn't debate anymore, it was dominance testing. Two forces occupying the same space, each measuring the other's strength. But only one had mastered control of the room without raising a voice. Swisher shifts in her chair, brow furrowed, a flash of irritation crossing her face. She's used to eliciting tension, watching her questions bend others into panic. But Crockett's silence, her refusal to match aggression, disturbs the usual pattern. The imbalance is palpable. Cameras pan subtly across the audience, staffers exchanging nervous glances, producers biting their lips, interns frozen mid-note. The tension stretches, tangible, thick enough to touch. Online, commentators pause mid-tweet. Clips loop. The chat explodes. She's not flinching. This is different. Crockett's calm is breaking the usual flow. Every digital notification becomes a heartbeat, syncing with the suspense building in the studio. Swisher's questions escalate in precision, each one sharper than the last, designed to corner, designed to provoke. But Crockett doesn't rise to the bait. Her gaze remains steady, her breathing measured. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't stumble. The silence she holds becomes louder than the words filling the room. It's a tension that viewers feel in their own chest, the kind that makes you lean forward, unwilling to look away. The narrator heightens the suspense. For the first time, someone refused the expected script. Every interruption met a pause. Every implication met clarity. The stage was set, the audience hanging on the edge of realization. This wasn't just an exchange, it was a test of character. Swisher finally falters for the briefest second, a twitch in her smirk, a hesitation in the rhythm she commands so easily. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but the cameras catch it, and the viewers at home sense it. The momentum begins to shift, imperceptibly at first, then with growing weight. The narrator leans into the promise of change, voice tight with anticipation. And when Jasmine finally spoke, she didn't defend. She dismantled. Not with volume, not with theatrics, but with something far more powerful: precision. The studio holds its breath. The world online pauses mid-scroll. Every eye, every ear, every feed is waiting for the moment that will rewrite the script. The tension has peaked, the stage is set, the mic drop is coming. The studio seemed to contract around her. Every microphone, every camera lens, every blinking light focused on Jasmine Crockett, who leaned forward just slightly. Not enough to appear aggressive, but enough to signal attention. Her hands rested lightly on the desk, fingers interlaced, posture impeccable. The room had held its collective breath, and now, in those measured moments, time seemed to stretch. She began without raising her voice. Every syllable fell like a carefully placed stone, creating ripples that would travel far beyond the studio walls. "Kara," she said, soft but unwavering, "your question assumes that understanding power means playing by its old rules. But history shows us real leadership comes from listening before responding, from serving before performing, and from integrity before spectacle." The words landed not as a rebuttal, but as revelation. Swisher's smirk faltered. A slight twitch at the corner of her mouth betrayed the tiniest flicker of doubt. For decades, she had commanded conversations, dominated discussions, orchestrated the rhythm of exchange. But this was no ordinary guest. Crockett wasn't stumbling. She wasn't flustered. She wasn't performing. She was constructing a framework of undeniable authority. The narrator cuts in, voice low and precise. She didn't raise her voice. She raised the standard. Producers froze mid-note, pens hovering above paper. The live chat exploded in milliseconds. She ended her with facts. That pause said more than any shout ever could. "This is historic," even seasoned journalists tweeted in disbelief, replaying the moment, frame by frame, as if the universe had paused to witness composure overthrow confrontation. Crockett continued, dismantling the assumption behind Swisher's question rather than merely answering it. Each sentence carved a path through bias, revealing the fragility of attacks dressed in authority. "It's easy to confuse volume with validity," she said, voice calm, precise. "It's harder to recognize that respect, preparation, and truth have their own resonance, one that doesn't need applause to command attention." Swisher opened her mouth and closed it. She attempted an interruption, a rebuttal, but found herself a second too slow, as though the pace of conversation had subtly shifted. Her questions, which had always set the tempo, now stumbled under the weight of Crockett's clarity. The power dynamic inverted. The interrogator became the observed. The questioner became the questioned. The narrator leans in. In that pause, the power dynamic inverted. The balance that once favored the loudest voice now favored the calmest mind. Camera cuts reveal reactions in the studio. Staffers glance at each other, astonished. Interns whisper under their breath, some smiling in disbelief. Swisher blinks rapidly, searching for an angle, a foothold, a misstep to exploit. But there is none. Crockett's composure is a fortress, each argument a pillar that neither volume nor sarcasm can erode. Online, the clip spreads like wildfire. Hashtags ignite. Your Crockett moment. Grace under fire. Your truth over noise. Commentators replay her phrasing, dissect her timing, marvel at the restraint she maintained under pressure designed to provoke. Memes begin to circulate, but instead of mocking, they celebrate, portraying her calm as superhuman, an emblem of dignity prevailing over hubris. Crockett doesn't gloat. She doesn't smile triumphantly. She merely continues, layering her points with precision. Each revelation builds upon the last, exposing assumptions embedded in the loaded question, illustrating broader truths about power, accountability, and civility in public discourse. She rewrote the rules of engagement in real time, the narrator intones, voice heavy with awe. Every interruption she ignored, every calculated pause she employed, was part of a strategy more effective than any shout or spectacle could achieve. Swisher's attempts to redirect falter. Each word she utters is met with a subtle recalibration from Crockett. She doesn't need to raise her voice, and she doesn't need to corner Swisher. The audience senses that restraint, intelligence, and preparation have become the new arsenal. Even the live chat recognizes it. This is how you dismantle someone without ever yelling. Jasmine isn't just answering, she's teaching. As the exchange continues, the momentum fully shifts. The studio feels different, heavier, charged with an energy that can't be broadcast but can be felt. Every frame captures astonishment, Swisher's eyes narrowing, the slight shift of her body, the subtle exhalation as she processes that her control over the room has slipped. Meanwhile, Crockett's calm, firm, deliberate voice continues to anchor the moment. Narrator. And in those seconds, something extraordinary happened. A viral clip was born, but it was more than a moment. It was a movement. The internet witnessed composure outshine contempt, respect outmaneuver arrogance, truth silence noise. Crockett's final words in the exchange land with clarity and precision. It's not enough to challenge loudly if the foundation of your challenge is shaky. Facts, respect, and integrity aren't optional. They are indispensable. The room, the chat, the world, all pause. Silence, not tension, now dominates. The interviewer, the one accustomed to commanding the conversation, sits momentarily undone, while the guest, with quiet authority, redefines it. The narrator closes this climactic scene with a low, resonant whisper, and in that silence the world saw a reversal no journalist expected. But what happened next turned a viral moment into a movement. Crockett leans back slightly, eyes steady, lips barely curved in acknowledgement of her own calm mastery. The camera lingers. The internet explodes. The moment, perfectly poised between words and silence, becomes unforgettable. Within minutes of the live podcast clip ending, the digital world erupted. Every platform lit up with the viral moment, a perfectly poised pause, a soft but lethal dismantling, a calm that felt louder than any shout. Headlines blared, Crockett outsmarts Swisher live. Texas Congresswoman shuts down media veteran on air. Every notification pinged with a single, undeniable truth. The internet had witnessed something remarkable. Hashtags surged. Crockett moment trended across platforms. Grace Under Fire flooded Twitter feeds. TikTok reels replayed the exchange hundreds of times in succession. And Dark Silence Wins became a rallying cry for civility in an era dominated by spectacle. Even casual viewers were compelled to share. A teacher, a student, a retiree. All paused mid-scroll to marvel at composure eclipsing confrontation. Talk shows and pundits dissected the exchange frame by frame. Analysts paused video clips to highlight timing, tone, subtle shifts in facial expressions. Notice how she never raises her voice, one commentator remarked. Every word lands precisely where it should. Another added, this isn't just a political victory. It's a masterclass in communication under pressure. Social media magnified the moment further. Memes circulated, not mocking, but celebrating. Side-by-side images of Swisher mid-interruption and Crockett calm at her desk flooded feeds. Tweets like, this is how you dismantle arrogance without anger, and Crockett just redefined power in real time, dominated trending topics. Every retweet, every share amplified not just the moment, but the principles it represented: dignity, preparation, truth. Meanwhile, critics scrambled. Some attempted to frame Crockett's calm as evasive, labeling the silence as strategy rather than mastery. News blogs ran op-eds questioning whether she had truly answered the questions or simply deflected them. Yet these critiques only highlighted the contrast between those accustomed to performance and the audience craving substance. Genuine admiration far outweighed skepticism, with millions celebrating a new standard for political discourse. The narrator's voice underscores the significance. The same calm that silenced arrogance became the loudest sound online. Audience reactions weren't limited to politics. Grassroots organizers praised the moment as emblematic of thoughtful leadership. Legal commentators noted how Crockett's courtroom experience translated seamlessly to a live media setting. Students and young professionals shared clips as lessons in influence without intimidation, using the moment to reflect on the difference between shouting to be heard and speaking so others listen. Even mainstream media outlets couldn't ignore it. Interviews and panels replayed the confrontation multiple times, each highlighting different facets: clarity of thought, emotional control, and the art of precise rebuttal. Every discussion fed the momentum, creating a cultural echo that extended far beyond the original podcast. The juxtaposition of reactions amplified the message. Swisher, a veteran of high-stakes questioning, appeared momentarily disoriented in public analysis. Clips of her body language were dissected, a twitch here, a subtle frown there. Meanwhile, Crockett's composure became iconic, a symbol of modern leadership in an age of spectacle. Online, the moment sparked debates about civility, media power, and who gets to define the narrative. Influencers, politicians, and everyday viewers all grappled with the same question: can power be exercised without theatrics? Can truth resonate without volume? Crockett's response had done more than answer a question. It reframed expectations for every conversation that followed. Narrator. And beneath the trending tabs, the shares, the hashtags, lay something deeper. A question about who gets to speak for America. Not just in politics, but in the culture that consumes it. The ripple effect continued. Grassroots organizations shared the clip to inspire civic engagement. Law schools analyzed it in classrooms. Debate teams circulated it as a study in pacing and strategy. Even casual viewers returned to it repeatedly, not just to witness a mic drop, but to feel the power of measured intellect triumphing over aggression. In every corner of the digital landscape, the same lesson echoed: composure, precision, and integrity are contagious. They command attention in ways shouting never could. And while Swisher had long commanded influence through force of personality, Crockett reminded the nation that influence also comes from restraint, from listening, and from the courage to remain unwavering when provoked. As the world absorbed the viral clip, one undeniable fact emerged: this was no longer just a podcast moment. It had become a cultural touchstone, a reference point for anyone seeking to understand how grace could outshine aggression in real time. The narrator closes with weighty anticipation, and while millions shared, debated, and dissected, one question lingered above the noise: who will define the conversation going forward? Because the moment was more than a viral clip. It was a mirror, reflecting not only power, but the responsibility to wield it wisely. In the wake of the viral exchange, the narrative settles, and the true weight of the moment becomes clear. The narrator's voice draws viewers into reflection. In an age of interruptions, where voices clamor to be heard over one another, Jasmine Crockett reminded the world that listening is power. That composure is strength. That patience can command more respect than any shout. The story transcends a single podcast or a single confrontation. It becomes emblematic of women in power navigating arenas historically dominated by loud performative authority. Crockett's victory isn't merely personal, it's symbolic. It represents the countless professionals, activists, and leaders whose contributions are often overshadowed by volume and spectacle. In her poised response, viewers recognize a broader lesson. Respect under pressure is not just admirable, it is revolutionary. Media elites, accustomed to shaping the narrative through forceful questioning, learned in real time that intellect and integrity cannot be rushed or intimidated. Crockett's approach reframes the rules of engagement. The power of facts, clarity, and moral conviction can challenge even the most polished interrogators. She didn't need theatrics. She needed truth. A paraphrased sentiment from Crockett captures the ethos. You don't earn authority by speaking over others. You earn it by ensuring your words carry meaning, and your silence, when necessary, carries even more. These words echo beyond the studio, resonating with audiences who crave leadership grounded in substance rather than style. The crescendo of the moment is cinematic, almost mythic in its impact. Every frame of her calm face, every pause that punctuated the conversation, becomes emblematic of integrity prevailing over arrogance. The narrator emphasizes, in a world shouting for attention, her calm became the echo of integrity, a reminder that restraint is not weakness, that dignity can command attention louder than spectacle ever could. The resolution carries dual significance, emotional and cultural. Emotionally, viewers feel vindicated, inspired, and uplifted. They have witnessed a demonstration of intelligence, preparation, and grace overtaking bravado. Culturally, the moment sparks a dialogue about the standards to which leaders and media figures are held. It challenges audiences to reconsider what constitutes authority, credibility, and influence. This reflection also highlights the intersection of gender, leadership, and media. Women, particularly those rising in politics and public life, are often measured against standards designed to reward aggression and visibility over skill and wisdom. Crockett's example reclaims the narrative, asserting that leadership can be exercised through poise, through measured reasoning, and through the courage to maintain calm under pressure. The narrator draws viewers to a universal moral. The lesson extends far beyond politics. In any field, in any conversation, in any conflict where the loudest voice seems to dominate, remember that the quiet, prepared, and principled response can change outcomes, reshape narratives, and inspire millions. As the music swells, the story's final moments linger on Crockett's composed figure. The world around her, both literal and digital, holds the pause, as if the nation itself is acknowledging a new paradigm. In this stillness, the audience grasps the essence of what they've witnessed. Power is not always seen in volume, but in vision. Authority is not always proven in the moment of attack, but in the grace of response. The narrator's closing words crystallize the takeaway, because sometimes the loudest rebuttal is restraint. It is a line that resonates, that challenges, that inspires. The audience leaves with a sense of hope, validation, and a renewed belief that integrity and composure remain formidable forces in a world often dominated by spectacle and noise. The moment becomes timeless, a lesson, a reminder, a call to aspire toward the strength found in calm and truth. As the final frames of the podcast clip fade, the narrator leaves viewers with a resonant truth. Dignity defeated mockery again. The words hang in the air, a reminder that composure, preparation, and integrity can triumph over aggression, arrogance, and spectacle. The audience is invited to reflect, to consider the broader implications beyond a single exchange. Whose voice defines your America, the loudest or the most grounded? Who shapes the conversations that matter, and what standard do we hold up for those we choose to follow? These questions linger, encouraging viewers to internalize the lesson and evaluate their own values in the political and cultural discourse surrounding them. Then comes the call to action, delivered not as a marketing pitch, but as an invitation to join a movement of thoughtful engagement. If you believe composure is strength, share this story. Let others witness how calm intelligence can outshine ego. Subscribe for more moments where truth, clarity, and integrity rise above the noise. Each phrase reinforces the central theme of the video while motivating the audience to participate, share, and continue the conversation. As the screen softens, a final overlay reinforces the moral weight of the story. Respect isn't weakness, it's power under control. The music swells gently, carrying the emotional resonance to a satisfying close. The outro leaves viewers not only informed and entertained, but inspired. It crystallizes the narrative into a takeaway they can carry into daily life, into their understanding of leadership, debate, and civic engagement. The audience departs with clarity, empowerment, and a sense of connection to the values that Jasmine Crockett exemplified: poise, courage, and truth prevailing in a world too often dominated by noise.